I sign the paper. My hand is trembling. The pen's scratch echoing like a death knell. That moment, small, silent, was the sound of something inside me breaking. They say the ends begin quietly. Mine began in a home that looked peaceful from outside but hid a thousand of whispered cruelties within its walls. I used to call it home, now I call it the pit, a den of smiling vampires, people who wore affection like a mask while feasting on my spirit underneath. They fed on my insecurities, my tears, my smallest mistakes. Each word they spoke dipped in honey, sharpened with venom, and now I kept bleeding silently behind polite smiles. I loved Aditya. He was my anchor, my reason to hold on. But love cannot shield you when poison seeps through the walls you both share. Through him, they raised me. His family, the immediate ones, as society calls them, were the storm I never saw coming. I remember when my job ended, my only escape, my only lifeline. The permanent employee returned and I was asked to leave. Just like that, hope crumbled. I could see the glee flicker in their eyes, masked of course, under concern. They won another round, and I once again was trapped. Days bled into nights, their words echoed endlessly. You are too proud. Maybe you should learn your place. You think education makes you superior. Yes, I was educated. I had dreams, ambitions, and courage. But to them, those were threats. They were terrified of a woman who could think, who could rise. There were moments I stared at the ceiling at 3 am, asking questions that burned through my sanity. Why me? Why does happiness slip through my fingers each time I reach for it? It has been years, maybe a decade, since joy truly touched me. Crisis after crisis, each one sharper, each one perfectly designed to test my breaking point. Then one day, in the middle of that chaos, I walked into a spiritual hall. I don't even remember how. Maybe my legs carried me where my mind refused to go. Inside, people were talking to someone called Sensei. Their faces glowed with something unfamiliar peace. They laughed, they shared, they trusted. And me, I sat in a corner, hands clenched, watching, wanting to speak, but terrified of being judged again. My mind was a storm, my voice buried under years of fear. When the session ended, I grasped my lesson, the journey of inner, to reach the self, by my own effort, to heal the self. It was like a book to me, it was my oxygen. For the first time in years, I felt heard, not by people, but by my own words. Each self-healing session spoke to the chaos in my soul. Each effort whispered, you are not broken, only buried. So I began again, study, reflection, tiny steps towards something I had forgotten, myself. It wasn't easy, healing never is, but slowly I started finding pieces of strength scattered through my pain. Years have passed since that night I signed the paper, and though I still live among those shadows, those familiar faces smiling their deceitful smiles, I am no longer the same Tuhina. I have seen too much to fall again. I've learned that peace isn't something they can give or take. It is something I must create, protect, and nurture within. Aditya still stands beside me, sometimes quietly, sometimes confused. He doesn't always understand the wars I have fought, but he remains my constant anchor in a sea of chaos. The world still tests me. The storms have not stopped, but I have changed. I no longer crumble, I question, I resist, I rise. Maybe the problem isn't always them. Maybe it is the way I have let their darkness define my light. So I have made a promise to myself to express, to create, to teach, to turn my scars into sentences, my pain into purpose, to tell every woman who have ever felt caged by family or expectation, you are not alone. I am Tuhina, educated, resilient, flawed, still shackled, but no longer silent. And though I walk in shadows, the fire within me refuses to die. Healing is your responsibility. Growth is your decision.